Got one person up on here. 3 people. Hope you guys are enjoying your Friday. This is the place where we gather together. Oh, 2 people now. Hello, Francisco. I'm doing okay. How are you? Just got my chickens in the coop. Love those little animals. They're so cute. Got 3 people. This is where all of us crazy people hang out on Friday nights. At least me. I'm not really that consistent with these live streams because once you start being consistent with these things and people expect it every time as scheduled, and sometimes I can't do these, so I just do these when I can. And then when I can't do a live stream, I'll try to do a video. I try to do 1 video every day. We got 7 people so far. That's awesome. Plus, I noticed when you get on these live streams too much, people don't appreciate you anymore. Hello, Hess. Are you German, Hess? I don't know. Hess is a German last name. Are you from Germany, or where are you from? And Francisco, where are you from? Are you from the Philippines? Where are you from? I'm just curious. Got 9 people so far. It's pretty good. I don't know. I'm not really okay. I'm just gonna wait for more people to come on, but hope you guys are enjoying your Friday. Oh, you're from Kansas. Okay, cool. Are you from? Wait, hold on. Which part of Kansas? Wichita? Are you from Wichita by any chance? Yeah. See, I deduced that you were Filipino because you have a Spanish name, and by what I see in your picture, you look Southeast Asian, so I assumed Filipino. But yeah, I've never been to Asia. The closest I've been to Asia is Hawaii, and I will say, when you get off the plane at the airport in Honolulu, you feel like you're in Indonesia somewhere. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. You feel like you're in Indonesia or Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand. Hawaii is such a cool state, though, for that reason, because you're basically you're kind of like you're in Asia. Hold on. Now you're saying you're from Guatemala? Hold on. I thought you were Filipino. Hello, Alexander. Long time no talk. You're our Norwegian correspondent. How is life in Norway, by the way? I need to start asking you questions about Norway. There's some interesting things about Norway that I would like to know more about. Like the heavy metal scene in Norway, it just seems like it's very popular over there. There's a Norwegian heavy metal or death metal, black metal singer. He calls himself Gal. That guy is a monster. Oh my gosh, this guy is evil. But you know how these live streams go. I just kind of talk. This is me just having a flow of consciousness. No planning, no script. I didn't even prepare for this. I didn't even plan on doing this. Well, actually, yeah, I did kind of plan on doing this. But I haven't prepared anything. There's no speech. There's no notes. I don't have any notes in front of me. It's just my mind. Straight up, strictly just my brain. The last time I did a live stream on here, I debated an American convert to Orthodoxy. And that was an interesting debate because it was the very first time I did a debate with the intention of arguing why we shouldn't argue. Like, that was my position the whole time. This because every time I go into a debate, I'm in there to argue, right? I'm in there because I want to argue about a position. I want to defend a particular position. But this was the first time that I just went into a debate, it was really an argument. I wouldn't consider it a debate, but it was the very first time I got into an argument on why we should not argue. So I guess, yeah, I did have a position. My position was that we should have no arguing. I don't really like the arguing between Catholics and Orthodox. Call me a pansy, but that's my position. I don't really care about I don't really care about the argument. I don't really care. His position was, well, we should argue. We have to argue. And I'm like, well, why? You know, there's other things that it's not a hill that I want to die on, as the saying goes. There are multiple hills that I would die on, but that's not one of them. Okay, so you're from Pittsburgh, Kansas, southeast. Okay. Now, if you said Wichita, I would have asked you, have you ever heard of Dennis Rader? Because he was in Kansas, serial killer. That guy is horrifying. I did not know that Dennis Rader ever existed. I never heard of Dennis Rader until sometime last month. I heard about Dennis Rader. Well, thank you, Francisco. He'd fit right in the Balkans. Let me just answer some of your guys' questions and then respond to some of your guys' comments. Gaul is more of a character as far as I know. He's more of a normal guy who regrets most of what he's done in his life and just wants to be left alone with his paintings and whatnot. Oh, I see. I thought he still made music. But I watched the Vice interview with that black metal singer from Norway. He calls himself Gaul. And I mean, the guy reminded me of a cult leader. Hello, Juan. Where is Heather? Well, let's talk a little bit about Heather, I guess, right? So Heather Green was a girl who commented a lot on our website, shoebot.com. She was very critical, overly critical, but it came to the point where she was just seething a lot. I don't know, but we eventually got rid of her because she was such a contrarian, and she, didn't like that. Nothing beats a woman's scorn, as they say. Hell hath no fury than a woman's scorn, is how the saying goes. So she just started doing a whole bunch of videos on me, and she would write me a lot, which is not really it's not a huge issue. But I debated her, and she didn't think that I would post it up. And I wasn't planning on posting up. In fact, I debated her a year ago, recorded it, but decided not to post it up. I got rid of the video. I'm pretty sure I deleted it because I couldn't find it. And then we debated a second time, and she kept talking and doing videos about me. So I thought, and she would say things about me like I'm an idiot, I am a spoiled brat, etc., etc. So I said, okay, let's show the world how intelligent Heather Green is. So I posted up the video, and that was it. I posted up the video. She didn't like that, and she wrote me, and she begged and begged and begged and begged and begged. And I took the video down. She apologized, and then she continued on doing the same thing. She thought she can get away with it. So I just reposted the debate, and that's it. So I don't know where she is. I have not talked to her for a little while now. He went to a church in this town when he was a little young. Yeah. That guy was a crazy psychopath. I never heard about Dennis Rader until a few months, or about a month or so ago. And I saw a video on YouTube. You know how on YouTube, the algorithms start recommending videos to you? And the algorithm said, hey, here's a video of serial killers giving their confessions. So I clicked on it, and a video of Dennis Rader popped up. And there's Dennis Rader giving his confession about how he strangled people and killed people. And I said, who the hell is this guy? Because when you look at him at the video, he looks like, and this is what makes Dennis Rader so creepy, he looks like the type of guy you would see at church, right? Because I've gone to church for a huge chunk of my life. I grew up in the Baptist church in the 90s. Every Sunday we went to church, and you would meet people who looked and acted like Dennis Rader at the superficial level, not necessarily at the serial killer level. And that's what made him so terrifying. During the day, he was a church-going family man, and then he had another side of him where he was a cross-dressing serial killer who murdered people and fantasized about sadomasochism, and yeah, it was really creepy. Now I will tell you, since you guys are listening, we're having a little get together here on this Friday evening. I will tell you some of my experiences in the Baptist church that really do make the Dennis Rader story make sense. Not in the sense that it's natural what Dennis Rader did, but in the sense that you would meet people like Dennis Rader in church. So back in the 90s, when I was going to the Baptist church in California, there was a guy, his name was Ron. And Ron was, he would see him at the church every single day. Not every day, but every Sunday, right? He'd go to church every Sunday. His name was Ron. He had big fig glasses, I remember. Tall guy, overweight, very, very fat guy. And he had that pedophile voice to him, like, hey, kids. And my father would tell me, stay away from that guy. Stay away from him. Don't talk to him. And I remember, this did happen. I remember I was maybe 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, maybe 6 years old, around that time, around that age bracket. And I was walking around the entrance of one of the Sunday school classes for the adults, because I was waiting for my parents were in the Sunday school class, and I was waiting for them to come out because I wanted donuts. And a whole little gang of kids ambush me. These are church-going Sunday school kids, ambush me, and they start pouring ice down my back. And yeah, it's bullying. There's bullying that happens in church. And they were laughing and putting ice down my back. And I remember Ron popping in and basically egging on these kids. Like, yeah, put ice down his back. Ha ha. And it was a kind of a weird a weird experience. And the guy was crazy. And then I later found out that Ron, one evening, decided to take an axe, go into his sister's house when she wasn't home, and literally destroyed all of the property in the house with an axe. Hacked the cabinets, the tables, all the carpentry in the house. He destroyed it with an axe. And I wouldn't doubt the guy had some bodies in his backyard. I don't know. The guy was a sadist. He was sick. But that was, that's what got me into reading the Dennis Rader story. Is he looks like a guy you would see at church. And churches have every type of person. It's not just the people who really want to read the Bible. It's the people who, and this is a sad thing to say about churches, but churches have a lot of people who want to look like the people who go to church. So you have some people who go to church because they really want to go there, but then you have a lot of people who go to church because they want to look like the people who go to church, you see? And they're doing it for almost like they're doing it for self-marketing purposes. Yeah. I got a bunch of stories on my church days. I've already told you guys some of my experiences in the Catholic Church. You're like, there's more? No, not really. I gave you pretty much the stories. Facade, exactly. I gave you guys some of the story. I gave you guys pretty much all the stories of my bad experiences in the Catholic world. But I remember going to Spain. This is another story that I'll tell you guys. I remember going to Spain back in 2015. And the reason why I was in Spain was because we were working with a Christian organization in Spain who had some decent connections with the Spanish government. And we were cooperating with them in order to help bring Christian refugees from Iraq to Spain. So we hired this team of Christian people who were a part of another organization that rescued sex slaves in the Caribbean. So we paid this team to go to Iraq and to pick up refugees, to find Christian refugees and bring them to Spain. So we managed to get 17 Christians. That's as many as we could get. And the Spanish Christian organization, they went through the process of having the government issue these refugees visas so that they could come to Europe legally, and got the visas and everything. And this Christian organization in Spain told us we have connections with the government, and they weren't lying. These people ended up coming to Spain completely legally, and they had a connection with the foreign minister at the time. His name was Margallo Garcia, I think his name was, but he was the foreign minister of Spain in 2015. His last name was Garcia. And so Garcia, he facilitated the visa process for these people. So anyway, to make a long story short, I went to Spain to hang out with this organization, and they said, "Hey, you should come to Spain. You'd love it. We show you around." I said, "Cool." So I went to Spain. Spain's a beautiful country. If you haven't been there, if you ever want to go to Europe, I'd recommend you go to Spain. Spain is a gorgeous country. But I went to this organization's facility in a small town in Spain called Paracuellos de Jarama. I love saying that, Paracuellos de Jarama, which is about 20 minutes away from Madrid. And before I went to Spain, I did research on, I spoke with a Spanish woman that I know who lives in Spain. And I asked her if she knows of any Christians who would be willing to help persecuted Christians who are living in Spain as refugees. And she said, "I have a friend who runs an organization in Spain, and I will speak to him." So she spoke with him. She got back to me, and she said, "Hey, this friend of mine, he has a facility with 40 rooms, and he would be very happy to take in refugees." I said, "Great. What's his name?" So she gave me his name, and she said he works for this organization called Remar. So I did some research on Remar, and I found some articles in the Spanish language, and I found some things that were being talked about in some Spanish forum. Used Google Translate to translate it into English, and what I found out was that this organization had been allegedly involved in enslaving drug addicts. And what this organization in Spain would do, Remar, what it would do was it would tell these drug addicts, "Hey, we know you want to get off the drugs, and we're willing to help you, but in order to get into our rehabilitation center, you need to sign this agreement stating that you agree with our theology." So all these drug addicts would, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll sign on the dotted line." They don't care. So they sign on the dotted line. Then all of a sudden, these drug addicts end up in this compound in Spain, ran by this organization called Remar. And what I read was that they would make these drug addicts work from 6 a.m. all the way to 9 p.m., feeding them very little. And once they were done working, they weren't allowed to go to sleep. They were given stale donuts, and Spaniards love their donuts. Not stale donuts, but they do love their donuts. Donuts are very common in Spain. They were given stale donuts and some old pasta to eat. And they were made to endure through a Bible study. So here you are, exhausted, working, building stuff for this organization from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then you have to listen to some guy's sermon, and all you're eating is some stale donuts and some rotten pasta. I mean, you're being malnourished and you're being enslaved. You are a slave. So I immediately knew that I should not. I immediately knew that they should not. That I should not work with this organization. So I went to Spain and hung out with this organization in Spain. And the woman who ran the organization, her name was Mila Fernandez. And I met her daughter. And I remember speaking to her on my last day in Spain. And I said, "Have you ever heard of this organization called Remar?" And she says, "Yes." She says, "Yes, we used to work with them." I said, "Oh, really? What happened?" And she said, "Well, we stopped working with them. We had a fallout. We don't work with each other anymore." I said, "Okay." So I left Spain, came back to the US, and then I got a call from the Spanish organization, and they were asking me to come back to Spain. Like, "Hey, come back to Spain. We would love to have you back again, blah, blah, blah." So the next month, this was in, I want to say in April of 2015, I went back to Spain and stayed in Spain for 10 days. And in my last day in Spain, Mila Fernandez took me around the facility. She gave me a tour of the whole facility and where the refugees would be, and et cetera, and where they would stay. And they had a lot of rooms there, and they fed people very well there, and it was very clean. But one thing that concerned me was, as she was giving me the tour, she showed me this pool that she had. There was no water in it. It was an empty pool. And she said, "You see this pool here?" She said, I had drug addicts build it for me." I said, "What?" She said, "I had drug addicts build it for me." And at that point, everything was coming together. So I was always worried that she was involved in putting vulnerable people to work as slaves. Now, the refugees, they came from Iraq. They went to Spain, and they had their visas facilitated by the government. And I think eventually they probably just left that facility and that was it. I don't think anything bad was happening or anything like that, but it was just a weird experience. Anyway, let's talk about something else. Hello, Michael Plush in Australia. Orthodox and Catholics will not reunite until Jesus reunites them. Orthodox have many grievances versus the Catholic Church. Yeah, I think it's going to take a miracle to unite them. I come in and Heather Green is the topic. We have a flow of consciousness, my friend. Have you ever read Orthodox End Times Prophecy? It seems Rome gets destroyed and we are all Orthodox in the world. Yeah, I've looked into a little bit of Orthodox prophecies. I looked into the prophecies of the elder Piseos, who's the most famous prophet in the modern Orthodox world. I don't know if they're inspired. I'm not entirely sure, and they're very interesting. I don't know if they're true, though. What's he talking about? I don't know. Spain is amazing. So is Castellano, Spanish dialect they speak. Yeah, it sounds really cool. Sad that the Vatican has spoken so little and done so little about our persecuted brothers and sisters in Christ in the Middle East. What was the deal with this Heather you debated? Well, I explained the story earlier, but basically she apologized and I took the videos down, and then she went right back literally like a day or two later talking just mad crap about me. And so I said, you know what? I don't care. Video's going back up. And after I put the video back up, she was just begging me to take it down. I said, nope, you abused my trust and you lied to me. You said that you wouldn't do this anymore and you continue to do it. You are dishonest and you abuse people's trust, and I will not respect that. Sodoma versus filled peppers, only one answer is correct. I don't know what you're referring to, but it sounds good. But yeah, I don't know. I've met some weird people in the church world. Religious groups can be very bizarre, to say the least. I remember years ago when I was researching the Jehovah's Witnesses. I remember hearing about how the Jehovah's Witnesses wife has to call her husband my lord, which is just insane to me. If a woman ever calls me my lord, I'm running the other direction. Like I'm getting a divorce. This is insane. Don't call me that. I ain't nobody's lord. Okay, I ain't no king and I ain't no larper. How have you been getting on with reading history of Josephus? I read some more this morning. And right now it's just the battle. Rome is assailing the cities, besieging the city of Jerusalem. And the Jews are putting up a very good fight. Some of the Romans are sort of losing their morale. But there is one Roman soldier of Syrian descent. His name is Sabinos, which is probably a Latinization of the word Sabine or Sabian. Sabians were a South Arab people. And he decides to get up over the wall by himself. So he gets over the wall by himself, climbs up the wall, and the Jews fire arrows at him. And like a scene from Gladiator, he just gets on his knee and boom, puts his shield right up and protects himself from the arrows. It's really, really cool. Eventually he died, but after putting up a hell of a fight, killing a whole bunch of Jewish defenders, and basically instilled morale and envy into the other soldiers. So the Romans are winning. The Jews are putting up a very good fight, but the Romans are winning. We're the worst, Catholic or Protestant? I'm not going to say that Catholics are worse than Protestants or vice versa, but what I will say is that in my experience, in my personal experience, because this is completely, well, not completely, but it's somewhat anecdotal. In my experience, Catholics are worse than Protestants in the sense that I've been to a good number of Protestant churches and I've never been sexually harassed by the minister. I know that it's happened to people, but in my life personally, it has not happened. Like I've had Catholic priests harass me, prey upon me. It's horrific. Now, statistically, from what I have read, statistically speaking, there is more sexual harassment from Protestant ministers and Catholic priests. So, but if you're asking, in my experience, I had more weird experiences in the Catholic world. What are your thoughts on the rad trads who are becoming more cantankerous and confrontational? You're talking about rad trads. Are you talking about Catholic trads, Protestant trads, or both? Because they're both they're both toxic. So what I would say is about rad trads is that they say a lot of things that are true, but I think a lot of them have very toxic motives. So they'll say things that are true, but in some ways they become almost like Pharisees. They become like Pharisees, really, because they say, all women are this way, all these women are that way, and then they'll say things like, well, what women really want is like a Chad guy who's a bodybuilder and who wakes up at 4 a.m. every single day and says 600 rosaries and then goes surfing and then fights a crusade every Friday night. I don't know. It's just, some of it is crazy. I think they're all crazy. That's what I think. I think they're all crazy. I think they're all not all crazy, but a lot of them are crazy, and a lot of them are very idealistic. I'll give you guys my own. I'll give you guys a story from my own personal experience. So years ago, I knew this guy. I forgot his name, but him and I went to the same Catholic church together, and we went to the same parish together. I think his name was Dylan or something. I don't know. But this guy was a super trad, and he was a chubby guy. And I'm not fat shaming him or anything, but there's a reason why I'm saying that he was a chubby guy. He was a chubby guy. He was the type of guy who is fat, but then he would complain about women being fat. He would be like, because he'd be fat, and then he would say, these women need to, drop some of the pounds. You know what I mean? And I'm like, have you looked at the mirror, my man? Like, you need to drop some pounds yourself. But that didn't matter to him. And he was one of those types of guys. Like, you should look in the mirror. Yeah. But anyway, he eventually left the Catholic Church and became Eastern Orthodox. He converted to Eastern Orthodoxy, and he actually wrote me some months ago, and he wrote me some months ago, and he said, "Hey, I converted to Eastern Orthodoxy." And he wrote me on Instagram. And I looked at his Instagram photos, and he had some Nazi stuff up on there. So he was this trad cat, idealist, and then left the Catholic Church because it wasn't trad enough for him or whatever, becomes Orthodox, and then becomes a Nazi sympathizer. I don't attend a Hillsong church. I never have. And then that place is culty. Yeah, Hillsong is culty. Hillsong is one of those places where it's kind of like the New Age movement meets Christianity. They have a lot of modern contemporary music, all the colors and the purple lights and the velvet lights. And then all of a sudden you see the pastor, and he looks like something you would see out of an HBO series or something. I don't know. The guy, the whole thing is crazy. Catholics are friendlier? Not in my experience. Catholics, from my experience, are hella cliquish. Very cliquish. They don't talk to you. Even though they know you're new, nobody talks to you. Protestants are actually a lot more open. They're a lot more friendlier. They have more of a sense of community than Catholics do. Where the worst? Okay. Protestants? Okay. Protestants are friendlier. Catholics are more serious. Yes. I wouldn't say Catholics are more serious either. I think Catholics just go there because it's just what they've been told to do, but they don't really care about fellowship. Protestants have more of an emphasis on fellowship. Catholics, silly question. Why do you think God created hallucinogens like ayahuasca? So that's actually a good question. I've actually thought about this. I thought about this for a bit. So marijuana has its medical benefits, right? Not smoking weed, but for example, you could take hemp and you could put it on cuts and it'll disinfect wounds. You can make paper out of it. Someone comes up with the idea of smoking it. That's an idea that people came up with, not God. Ayahuasca, I don't know what other benefits it may have, but people decided to drink ayahuasca. People drink it. They make a tea out of it and they drink it. For some reason, it opens you up to the demonic realm. I have a theory, and this could be completely false, but I have a theory that there's something interconnected between your consumption and your spiritual state. So sin came into the world when Adam and Eve ate the fruit. They had to eat something, and sin came into the world. You also have to eat the flesh of Christ for redemption. So what if Satan has his own Eucharist and it's these plants? That's the thought that I put into it. Are we live in the words of Christianity? Are we alive? I don't know what you're trying to say. Theodore, what do you think about the presence of these ortho bros who, in trying to defend Eastern Orthodoxy, predicate their apologetics by advancing polemics against Catholicism. Are you talking about people who are agitators? So if you're talking about people who are agitators, I mean, the advice that I would give is to ignore them. I wouldn't give these people attention. But if they, like, I wouldn't go out. Okay, I said this in one of my prior videos, but I don't believe that we are living in the age of evangelization. I know it's like a really controversial thing for some people, but that's what I believe. Like, I don't believe that we are in the age of evangelization. I believe that we are in an age of struggle. And what do I mean by that? Everyone has heard about Jesus. Everyone in America has heard about Jesus. Everyone with an iPhone has heard about Jesus, and they are more iPhones in India than toilets. So everyone's got an iPhone, and everyone's heard about Jesus. And you know, I get Indians and Pakistanis calling me every single day to try to scam me. Every day. No exaggeration. 6-7 calls a day. People, scammers from India and Pakistan. And I'll tell them, because they always say, "Oh, do you want to have life insurance?" And I say, "Jesus is my life insurance." And I tell them that just to see what they say. And they always mock you, always laugh at you. They always blaspheme. Why? Because they all heard about Jesus. So would you go out of your way to tell people about Jesus when they've already heard about Jesus? I wouldn't. I would not go out of my way to talk to people who've already heard about Jesus. Now, there are certain situations where you should talk to people, right? So, for example, if you see someone doing something wrong, but you get the impression or you know that the person is decent and is not the type of person that's just going to blow you off, then talk to them, right? If they're a close friend, or again, someone that you see, you don't necessarily have to know them. Like one time I remember I went to the bookstore and I saw a black guy reading what's the name of that book? It's on sadomasochism, 50 Shades of Grey. I saw him reading this book, 50 Shades of Grey. And I just I don't know, something about it within me just stirred me up. I just couldn't stand there and watch a brother read that stuff. You know, like he looked like a good guy. He looked like a decent dude. He didn't look like a mumble rapper. He looked a clean-cut guy. And I got the impression that he was the type of person who would listen. So I walked up to him and I said, "Hey," I had no idea who this guy was. Completely random conversation. But I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, why are you reading that garbage?" And he said, "Well, someone at school told me about it." And I said, "Let me show you some good literature to read." So, and I think he knew in his heart, like, this dude's right. So he dropped the book and I gave him a copy of, I think it was Fulton Sheen's The Life of Christ, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, "I'm going to read it." So he sits down, he starts reading. I said, "Okay, God bless you, man." And I left. So I come back about 2 hours later, and he's still reading it. So I think that guy, he was willing to listen, you know. And I think when you have the impression that someone is decent, then, and you feel stirred to speak to them, then speak to them. But are you going to go to an Insane Clown Posse concert and talk to people about Jesus? No. Are you going to walk into a mosque where everyone's heard about Jesus and talk to them about Jesus? No one's going to listen to you. Now, if someone wants to come and talk to you, that's a different story. If somebody comes to you and they're not mocking you, they're not scoffing at you, they're not being facetious, and they want to talk to you, then you should talk to them. But that's only because they want to talk to you, not because you go out of your way. My point is, you got to be discerning. You got to know when's a good time to talk. What's the occasion to talk? What's a good opportunity to talk to somebody? Now, if you see someone who's Eastern Orthodox and they're friendly and you want to talk to them, you want to say, "Hey, I'm a Catholic, you're Eastern Orthodox. I know we have our grievances, we have our tensions, but that's it. Let's have a dialogue. But you know the person would be willing to talk to you in a civil manner. Then go ahead, by all means. If someone who's Eastern Orthodox comes to you and says, "Hey, I know you're Catholic, I'm Orthodox, I would love to have a dialogue with you," then talk to that person. But if somebody is just being an agitator, they're acting like Milo Yiannopoulos, they're acting like the Proud Boys. When you see those types of people, one thing you have to always keep in mind is why they're there in the first place. They're not there to have a dialogue. That's the biggest mistake people make. It's like these street preachers who go around breaking statues of the Virgin Mary. They're not there to have a dialogue. Sometimes you see some nice Catholic people going to these street preachers and say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And these street preachers just start yelling and screaming because they're not there to have a dialogue. They're there for two reasons, really. They're there to agitate, and they're there to get attention. They love the attention. Gives them some kind of meaning in their life. So why would you waste your time talking to these people? It's like going to a gay rally, and I want to preach the gospel at a gay rally. You're wasting your time. You're throwing your pearls before pigs, too. Now, if you want to go to the gay rally to confront, that's a different story. But if you're going to go to there to preach Jesus, you're wasting your time. That's why I say we're no longer in the age of evangelization. We are in the age of struggle. We're in the age of confrontation. We've come to the point where it's we know who stands for what. We know where the demarcation line stands. The line has been drawn. So what's the point of trying to preach to people who've already heard the gospel? It's just a waste of time. That's why I laugh. People say, "Ted, can you do a video responding to this person?" Why? "Ted, you should debate this person." Well, that person knows where to find me. Every debate that I've ever been on, except for one, the person that I debated was the one who initiated the conversation. And only one time, only one occasion, did I go out of my way to confront someone. And that was when I debated Martin Sellner. And the only reason, Martin Sellner, for those of you who don't know, is a far-right Austrian, identitarian, right-wing, racist, activist, modern-day Nazi. He's a neo-Nazi. And the only reason why I debated Martin Sellner was because I wanted to debate a Nazi. Because I saw all the videos happening. I saw all of the videos of these right-wingers. This was back in 2017. This was when the internet was exploding with right-wing propaganda. And I saw a lot of the anti-immigrant stuff, a lot of the racist stuff, a lot of the identitarian stuff exploding out. And they were coming out with very effective arguments. They were winning a lot of people. And so I wanted to make an example to show people, because one thing that really bothered me was when it came to the identitarian thing, Christians were not engaging with these people. Christians were not combating. They were not confronting the racist. Christians, they were combating the liberals. And the problem with a lot of Western Christians is that to them, Christianity is within the right versus left paradigm. And I don't see Christianity that way. I see Christianity as just being against evil. Right-wing evil, left-wing evil, it doesn't matter. It's against evil. And I see it as, I saw how the Christians were not engaging against this stuff. In some cases, Christians were agreeing with these people. So I said, I want to set an example to show that, hey, it's not just liberals who are against this stuff. Christians are also against this stuff. Christianity is against this stuff. So I had a theological debate with Martin Sellner, and I wanted to demonstrate that Christians are against this stuff and Christianity is against this stuff. So I only debated that guy to set an example. But in every single debate, except for that one, in every other single debate, the other person was the initiator. The other person was the one who started that debate with me. Heather Green, Michael Brown wrote an article against me, and that's what initiated the debate between him and I. Eric Allen Bell, the right-wing counter-jihadist that I debated years ago, back in 2015, he initiated the attack. I remember I debated a major Mormon apologist from Utah back in, I think it was in 2013, 2012. John Tanner, I think his name was. Very big Mormon apologist. I debated him for 2 hours. But again, that wasn't because I went out of my way to talk to this guy. It was because this Mormon radio host that I knew at the time in Salt Lake City said, "Hey, would you mind debating a Mormon?" I said, "Sure, I don't care." So he set up the debate. Other than the Martin Sellner situation, I never initiated a confrontation. Never. Even when I confronted that pedophile with that predator priest, can't say pedophile, but he was indeed a predator. That predator priest, Michael Yarbrough. Michael Yarbrough was the predator. He initiated the confrontation. I didn't go out of my way to confront him. So why do I not go out of my way? Because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time to go to somebody who you know you're not going to convince and say, "I really want to talk to you. I really want to talk to you." No. If you want to talk to me, you know where to find me. You know where to find me. What are your thoughts on the jab? Like the punch in boxing? I'm not a boxer. Dennis, okay, many of the people who are cold Catholic traditionalists are schismatics. They are not in communion with the Pope. Need recipes from your garden. Garden videos are very interesting and would like to see more things to cook with stuff from your garden. Absolutely. You are what you eat. That's true. Agreed. Psychedelics are of Satan. Yes. Anthony, okay, you're referring to SSPX. Yeah. Yo, I'm Indian. Okay. But you got to I don't know. Something has to be done about these scammers. Most of them are coming from India or Pakistan. Are we living in the worst of Christianity? Probably, yeah. Probably. Because the church has gone through some pretty terrible disasters, like the Arian controversy, when most of the Christian world had become Arian. They became Unitarian. But I think the problem with today is, while the outside world is messed up, the Catholic world is just as messed up. You see what I mean? At least with the Arian situation, you had, Saint Athanasius, you had these saints who were very strong in the faith. The Pope was actually against the Arians. Today, the Catholic Church supports Islam. The Catholic Church says we need civil unions, gay civil unions. The Catholic Church itself is corrupt. At least in those days, though, there was more righteousness in the church. So, yeah. Sorry, I've already confessed, but I was a big smoker at that time. The gift of time drifted by. Amazing how much you can do for yourself and others in a few hours. You talked to the guy because you were being led by the Spirit of God. I believe so, yes. You know what's funny about that story? I saw the guy reading this terrible book, and 50 Shades of Grey was the book. And believe it or not, I was reading a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is the most popular holy text in the Hindu religion. And the book is about a war. It's about a war between two Aryan families. And you have Arjun, who is about to go to war with his own relatives. And Arjun meets Krishna. And Arjun is terrified of going to war. And I'm reading this book and I'm looking at this guy next to me and I'm like, should I say something? Should I say something? You know, and all of a sudden, all the excuses start popping up in the mind. He could beat you up. He could be violent, blah, 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 blah. So then I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna tells Arjuna, rise above your fears. So I thought, it's not a bad idea. Not saying it's holy text, but truth is truth. We should rise above our fears. Do you like turbo folk music? Some, yeah. I like some of the Tuvan and Mongolian throat singing stuff. I think that's pretty cool. Theodore, how do we critique Buddhism? How do we critique Buddhism? I've been debating a Buddhist recently. He argued that a mind cannot be behind the universe because a mind is conditioned by desires and has oh God. I'm just going to tell you that you're wasting your time. Is this a public debate or is this like an internet chat thing? If you're doing a public debate where people are watching, you should definitely prepare what you're going to say. If you're doing a private argument, you're wasting your time. Especially with someone who comes up with an argument like a mind cannot be behind the universe because a mind is conditioned by desires and has attachments. Sounds like someone who's not really willing to be convinced. Sounds like someone who's willing to split hairs on every issue. Is this Buddhist Indian or what is he? Japanese, Thai? But I you know what? I'll take what you wrote here and I'll see what I can do with it. Argue that a mind cannot be behind the universe because a mind is conditioned by desires. So in Buddhism, they teach that desire is wrong and we have to free ourselves from desire. In Christianity, God made us absent of evil desires, but we have good desires. And I would say, so for example, he says, a mind cannot be behind the universe because a mind is conditioned by desire. I would just say, so what? Who cares? Every human being has desire. A mind cannot be behind the universe. I'm going to guess I'm going to guess that you're arguing whether or not God created the universe. You're saying that God did create it. And he is saying that it's impossible for a God or for God to create the universe because God has a mind and the mind cannot be behind the creation of the world. I'm going to assume that's what the context of the debate is. I would just say, so what? So what? So what if a mind has desires? That doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means something, but it doesn't prove that a mind cannot be behind the universe. Let me know if you have any other questions. I hope that helps. Turbo Folk, the greatest evil to come out of Serbia. I mean, some of that Turbo Folk music sounds kind of evil. I don't know. Some of it's good, though. Some of it has a good rhythm. Mediterranean Christian culture. Hi, Ted. You talk about the Ottoman Empire reviving. Do you think it will be successful? Yeah, that's a good question. So, my dad for years would tell me about how Turkey is eventually going to control Central Asia. And I never disagreed with him, but I always wondered, like, how is that going to play out? Like, how is that going to unfold? How's that going to happen? And we're seeing it happen with Afghanistan. There's so much that I want to say about this. I've been writing a lot about it on shubot.com. We're posting more on it than writing. And you're seeing it right before our eyes with Turkey now being projected to be America's replacement in Afghanistan. Because America's leaving. They're going to be gone by September the 11th is going to be America's last day in Afghanistan. So they're going to be gone. And Turkey is slated to become America's replacement. So Turkey is going to have its military presence in Afghanistan. Turkey is going to deploy troops into Afghanistan. Turkey is already talking about the problem with 5 Afghan soldiers in less than an hour. So there's already a problem with the Taliban. Turkey is coming in as America's replacement to defend NATO. They're really there for their own interest. And right when that happens, Turkey's going to say, well, we have all the Taliban guys here, and we have a huge problem with the Taliban. We got to bring in more troops. Because right now, Turkey's got like 500 troops in Afghanistan. They're going to deploy more. You're going to see massive deployment into Afghanistan. Not just that, but you're going to see Turkey joining forces with other militaries. Turkey has already said, we want to join forces with the Pakistani and Hungarian military. Hungarian military and Turkey together, that's World War I right there. The Austro-Hungarian Empire allying with the Ottoman Empire. And, you know, Turkey, Austria, and Hungary have already talked about making a giant railway network connecting Asia with Northern Europe. So you're already seeing this military alliance taking shape. Turkey wants to lead Central Asia. Afghanistan is part of Central Asia. And Turkey wants to lead the Turkic countries. It's why Turkey runs the Turkic Council, which is really an attempt of Turkey trying to make its own NATO. So you're already seeing it, guys. You're already seeing it. And America is just going to stand back and watch. And Turkey is going to control Afghanistan. And Turkey already has control over Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is right on the coast of the Black Sea. Across from Azerbaijan is Central Asia. So Turkey, through Azerbaijan, has a direct access point into Central Asia. So you're already seeing it. Oh, the vax. I'm wary of the vax because there's a lot of health side effects, a lot of inflammation problems, a lot of blood clotting issues that I've heard. So I'm very wary of it. I haven't taken it yet. I don't plan on to. Truth is never old. Don't compromise. Can you explain the way reference before the Catholic term was taken? The way. I think you're talking about the Tao. I mean, I'm going to assume it's the way of Christ. How come you do not like Dennis Prager? Juan, you've been listening to me long enough to know why I don't like him. So I get the impression that you're trying to bait me with that question. So I'm not going to answer it. Detective Holmes, Read Christ, the Eternal Tao. That's an interesting title for a book. It talks about the Taoist way in light of Christ. Interesting. I got to check that out. I think the worst part was during the early Renaissance with the Borgia popes. Yeah, there was definitely corruption going on there. You can get the PDF downloaded on... I'm going to look that up. Bergoglio says that not so much the church. Yeah, but he's the Pope. Give me a break. Stop this crap. Cut the crap. It's not the Pope talking. It's Bergoglio. He's the Pope. And when the Pope, who's supposed to be the spiritual shepherd of the world, says we need some gay sodomite unions, that's on him. That's a huge. That's not just a mistake. That's just evil. It's not really the church. It's Bergoglio. It's the Pope. Stop being Weasley. Do you like heavy metal music? I don't like that Scandinavian black metal stuff. I will say though, there has been some good metal music out there. Don't judge me. Korn in the 90s made some really good rhythms. Later on, they just went downhill rhythmically, but in the 90s, songs like what was it? Somebody, Someone, It's On, like some of these songs had, I mean, just amazing banging rhythms. Like you could lead armies with that music, but their later stuff just went downhill rhythmically wise. Wow, heard my text and you are like 5 minutes behind the stream. God bless Theo. Heard my text. Okay. Private call. Okay, you're wasting your time, but if you have any more questions, feel free to put them in and I'll read them. I'll try to help you. Chinese Buddhist. Okay. Sounds like Buddhist Sophism. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Before I go, mention the virtues. Most of Turbofolk has nationalism, fornication, alcohol abuse, or drugs. Yeah, that's true. There is always a need for evangelization. Hearing about Jesus in a casual way is inadequate. It's not learning the gospel. Yeah, but if somebody has heard about Jesus and he doesn't care, like, what if he doesn't care about hearing it? Like, of course, people who reject Christ, they've heard it in an inadequate way. I start stuttering. They have all heard it in an inadequate manner, right? Most likely from their parents or their grandparents. But if they don't take the time to research, like, you can't baby people. If someone has heard about Jesus in an adequate way or an inadequate way, if he doesn't think upon it to the point where he actually has the will to research more and expound his knowledge on it, why are you wasting your time? You can't baby these people. They don't want to listen. That's the thing. People, now, if somebody wants to learn, then fine. But going out of your way to preach to people on the street or on some rainbow rally you're throwing your pearls before swine. Many people, including those of Christian lineage, have only heard about Jesus casually. Most people have gone to church sometime in their lives. The U.S. withdrawal out of Afghanistan wouldn't it be filed by Chinese troops? Well, that's the thing. America is worried about China stepping in, and that's why they're putting Turkey there, because they're worried about the Russians and the Chinese. The Turks are going to be there. Most likely, what's going to happen is the Russians are going to enter Afghanistan, and you're going to have a conflict between the Russians and the Turks over Afghanistan, just like in Syria. All the Turkic countries in Central Asia are controlled more or less by Russia. Yes, but the Turks are trying to change that. That's the thing. You're not baiting me. You're not baiting me. Okay, you comment on a lot of my videos, and I'm pretty sure you've heard my position on this. But since you tell me that you're not baiting, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. The reason why I don't like Dennis Prager is because he actually said that the Bible says that you can had sexual relations with a young boy just like you would with a young girl. Like, the Bible doesn't say that. And very sympathetic to Sodom. I'm going to leave it at that. The media twists and distorts what the Pope says. Okay. You can make that claim. The problem is that the Pope said those things in Spanish. He said those things in Spanish. There are 1 billion people in the world who speak Spanish. They all heard him. They all heard what he said. My mother is a native Spanish speaker. She heard what the Pope said in Spanish, and she said, yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. So I don't agree with that declaration of yours. I listen to you sometime. Okay. The media. Okay. Oh, forgot to thank you. Thanks for answering my questions just now. God bless me. The Lord sanctify your heart. God bless you, man. The problem is not that people haven't heard about Jesus Christ, but that his church has been so weak in being faithful to him and upholding the truth and the gospel. Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. Seems Mr. Prager is a fan of the Talmud. Well, yeah, he's a rabbi. So, yes, he's definitely going to be in favor of the Talmud. So, anyway, I've been here for an hour and 5 minutes. I think I've talked long enough. But if you guys have any questions, is the U.S. mainstream media right still facing neocons like Prager? I don't know what you're saying. Is the media right when they go against Prager? I mean, it depends on the reason. I mean, usually people go against Prager for the wrong reasons. In fact, I never heard anyone expose Prager like I have. Nobody. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, he's a fascist, neocon. I'm thinking, what about this thing he said about young boys? Silence. Anyway, okay, I think I'm done here. It's been an hour, guys. What has been the most beautiful church you have visited? Oh, that's a good question. I remember years ago, I went to Austin, Texas, and I went to the cathedral there, and it had a big impact on me. Very beautiful cathedral. Will you ever reconsider getting back to Discord? Just to chat with people. But the problem with going on Discord is that it just ruins my internet connection. And most people who listen to me on live stream can't understand what's being said by the other person. But anyway. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. God bless.